Hey friends, welcome to the first video of this channel. Now I've been super excited to make this video for all of you because I'm going to be demonstrating the same exercises that started me off on this fitness journey. Now the reason why I focused on bodyweight exercises or calisthenics was purely because I wanted to limit my dependence on equipment. Plus, if you've seen any of the calisthenics, the gymnasts on social media, you can see the amazing feats of strength they have. They don't necessarily look like the Hulk or the Rock, but they're just as strong relative to their body weight, if not stronger. And so basically I wanted to achieve relative strength for my own body weight and for my own personal goals. And if I could get close to any of the feats of strength that they're able to demonstrate, then that was just a bonus for me. So another reason why I chose calisthenics or bodyweight exercises was because I'm actually time poor. Actually, both my wife and I are time poor, but her more so than me. Now, we both work out at home, and this is just a convenient way for us to get our exercise in without having to worry about opening hours or avoiding peak times or trying to make a booking at the gym for some of the classes. So this is just very convenient in order for me to access any form of exercise, and I don't have to rely on equipment, as I said earlier. So in this video, I'll be covering the conditioning phase, some of the equipment required, the workout frequency, and I'll even demonstrate the exercises for you. Now, I've also made a free workout plan for you to have a look at and maybe follow along with on your journey. So please check that out. It'll be in the description below. Now let's get started. All right. As a beginner, I suggest that you experiment with a thing that I call a conditioning phase or a transition phase, a warm-up phase, whatever you want to call it. But essentially, this part of the training is for you to get your muscles accustomed for the strenuous exercises that they're going to be doing in the future. Now, in the past, whenever I tried to go on this fitness journey, I would always work out really hard on the first time or my first attempt. And then the next day I'd be really sore, and then that would basically stop me from working out for the next couple of days until I was able to recover and move well again. Now this time around, I decided that wasn't smart, and so I decided to do 50% of my capacity for the first week, maybe 2 to 3 times a week, and then I would increase the frequency or the intensity the following week, whichever one worked for me. And so basically, by the third week, I was getting close to 100% of what I was able to do. And so by the time that conditioning phase or the conditioning weeks ended for me, I was able to enter, I guess, week 1 of the proper training. And I didn't have the excuses of like, oh, my muscles are sore, I'm gonna take a couple of extra days off, whatever it may be. And in addition, it was like a mindset thing. It like prepared me mentally to get into this routine or this new change of schedule for me. And so I found this very, very beneficial, and I would recommend for you to do the same. So you just gradually ease into it, and then by the time you know it, you're ready to give it 100%. Now, once you've done the conditioning phase, the second thing I want you to do is do full body workouts. Now, the reason why I say full body workouts is because as a beginner or someone who hasn't exercised for a very long time, there's this phenomenon called newbie gains. What this is basically your body's ability to burn fat and build muscle at the same time, and basically get good results within a 12-month period. So by doing a full body exercise, you're basically balancing the amount of strength you're going to be developing as well as the amount of muscle you can build. And the best way to take advantage of the strength gains as well as the hypertrophy gains is by doing compound exercises. Now, compound exercises are basically movements that require major and secondary muscle groups to perform the movement, as well as activating more than one joint in order to perform the movement. And so basically, you're going to be working your entire body, and this will allow you to take advantage of that phenomenon and hopefully see really good results. Now, after a period of time, you can obviously invest in doing some accessory exercises. And actually to this day, 13 months later, I'm still doing compound exercises, and I've only added maybe like 2 or 3 accessory exercises Now, on your days off, I don't recommend for you to just sit down and do nothing. I do recommend for you to do something. So I call the rest days active rest days. And I would recommend very low impact exercises. So me personally, because we have a dog, I just walk my dog Molly, and so that's 30 minutes of active rest for me, and I'm still burning calories while I'm doing that. Occasionally, my wife might ask me to like check out some of the Pilates stuff, so I might do Pilates. So if you're into Pilates, definitely check it out, or maybe yoga, or you can even just do some stretching. So again, low impact exercises. It'll keep your body active, it'll keep you burning some extra calories. Now for the equipment. If you're gonna get any piece of equipment, I would highly recommend for you to get a doorway pull-up bar, and the second piece of equipment would be some gymnastics rings. Now, these are both very, very cheap. In Australia, you can get a doorway pull-up bar for like $15, $20 from Kmart or something like that, or you can even go to Marketplace and get them for even cheaper than that. Gymnastics rings are also very cheap. I personally didn't invest in gymnastics rings until maybe 10 months into my training, and I highly wish that I got them earlier. Now, I got my gymnastics rings for $30, and so all up, that's $45 of equipment. The two of those combined complement each other very well. They can give you a lot of versatility in terms of the exercises that you can do, and they'll provide you with basically a lifetime worth of exercises. Now, if you don't want to get gymnastics rings, you can still get a doorway pull-up bar, but the second accessory I would encourage you to get is a dip bar. Now, if you don't want to get either of those, you can get yourself a pull-up tower, or you can get yourself some resistance bands. Now, the bands will come in handy for those of you who can't do pull-ups yet, so you can do band-assisted pull-ups, as I'll demonstrate later in the video. In addition to that, you can work your lower body or your lower muscles with resistance bands like I do, just because with bodyweight exercises, you can get very competent with your lower leg muscles very easily, and so you're gonna need to challenge them in a different way. And so for me, I started using resistance bands as a way to challenge my leg muscles. But for the upper body, the pull-up bar, the gymnastics rings, and the dip bar still provide me a significant amount of challenge. And there's multiple ways to challenge yourself in terms of, I guess, building muscle and building strength, or even endurance if those are your goals. All right, now on to the actual thing that you came here to watch. So with the exercises, I recommend you to do 3 days a week. Me personally, I work out every second day. So on some weeks that works out 3 times a week, and on other weeks, it'll work out 4 times a week, but I don't exercise any more than that. Now with any resistance training that you do, whether that's bodyweight exercises or weightlifting, I highly encourage you to do the most difficult exercise first. The reason for this is because your muscles are fresh and you're able to exert more energy and more effort in order for you to do that exercise. If you do the most difficult exercise last or towards the end, your muscles are already kind of fatigued, and so you're not really getting the benefit of developing the muscles or the strength with the exercise that you're trying to get better at. And so always work towards the hardest and then the easiest towards the end. Okay, so let's start with the push exercises. Now with the push exercises, we have basically 3 variations here, but each of these variations have their own regression or progression that you can work towards. So with push-ups, if it's too hard for you to start on the plank position, then you can use your knees, or if that's still even too hard for you, you can use a step stool like I have in the demonstration, and you can basically do an incline push-up. Now if you don't have a step stool, you can use a staircase, you can use a chair, you can use your sofa, whatever it may be to get you on an incline. Now again, if that's still too hard for you, don't be embarrassed. You can use the wall as your first, I guess, base of push-ups, and then from there you can work your way to being horizontal. Now this next set of exercise are the tricep dips. Now again, I've got a step stool in the demonstration, so I'll use that to elevate myself and do a tricep dip. If again you don't have a step stool, you can use the things I mentioned before, or you can simply just get a couple of books or anything that gets your hands elevated, and you can start doing dips from there. But obviously the more range of motion you have, the more you'll work your triceps. Now the next exercise is bar dips. Now this essentially works your triceps just as well as the tricep dips, except the tricep dips is more focused on your triceps as opposed to the bar dips that focus on your shoulder muscles, your chest, as well as your triceps and a little bit of your core. Now, if you already have bars at home that you can do dips from, then that's really good. I would highly recommend you to just not bother doing the tricep dips because your triceps will also get a workout from this. Now, if you can't do dips yet, I would highly encourage you to work on the negatives, which is essentially starting from the top of the dip bars and slowly lowering yourself down as slow as you can possibly go, and repeat that cycle for as many times as you can. The reason for this is because we're stronger on the negative phase, and so we can easily lower ourselves as opposed to trying to push ourselves up. So again, the same principle you can apply with push-ups or any of these exercises moving forward. So if we're gonna apply it with push-ups, if you can't push yourself up against the floor, then you could lower yourself down to the floor as slowly as you can in a controlled manner. And then you could basically start from the top again and repeat the cycle. Okay, now on to the pull exercises. The first one we have are the inverted rows. Now these are personally my favorite exercises, and I can understand that not everyone can do inverted rows. So for the first demonstration, you can see I have my legs bent, and this essentially uses my legs to offload some of that weight and be able to use my back or my back muscles to pull myself up. Now, if this is too easy for you or you start finding this easy, all you gotta do is extend your feet out so that you're kind of diagonal against the floor and you're pulling yourself up from there. And then if you wanna make this any harder, all you gotta do is grab a step stool or something where you can elevate your feet and basically put your feet on there and again, pull yourself up. Now on to the next exercise, we have the pull-ups and the chin-ups. Now the only difference between the two is that one of these exercises puts more emphasis on the biceps, and so you're gonna feel your biceps a little bit more with the chin-ups as opposed to the pull-ups. Now again, I know this is a beginner exercise and I know that not everyone can do pull-ups from the get-go, but you can always work towards doing negatives and then eventually onto band-assisted pull-ups before you're able to do body weight pull-ups yourselves. So as you can see in the demonstration, I'm anchoring a band around the bar, and from there you basically want to loop it around, and then you want to put your feet through the bands and essentially you want to pull yourself up. Now the only thing with bands that I don't like is generally people don't use them very well. So a lot of the time I find people basically allow the band to do the work for them as opposed to the muscles actually doing the work for you. Now with this, I highly recommend that whenever you do band assisted pull-ups is that you don't rush through them. Do them slow and controlled. So on your way up, try to pull yourself up in a controlled manner or like explosively, but then on the way down, control it, because what happens is I find people go down and the band essentially stretches and then you kind of like ricochet yourself back, or the band becomes like this slingshot motion of like just slinging you back up. And I don't think that's quite beneficial for anybody. So on your way down, try to control it so that the band doesn't slingshot you all the way back up. Now onto the leg exercises. Now with the legs, the only caveat I have is that because our muscles are large, we can get very competent with body weight leg exercises very quickly. And so you can obviously work towards different variations of it. So for example, if we look at squats, there's variations like Cossack squats or sumo squats, and then eventually you can work towards one-legged squats. But ultimately, we're gonna want more resistance over time because our legs aren't gonna be as challenged anymore. And if you really wanna grow your legs, you wanna basically create more resistance than what our own body weight can give us. All right, so for the leg exercises, we have squats, we have glute bridges, we have reverse lunges, we have hip thrusts, we have wall sit, we have single leg Romanian deadlift, we have Bulgarian split squats, And let's not forget the calf raises. Now, majority of these exercises I feel are kind of self-explanatory. You can watch plenty of videos in terms of how to do proper form, and I would highly encourage with any exercise, irrespective of upper body, lower body, to do proper form or do the proper technique in order to get the most out of these exercises. Now for these exercises, I'm not gonna go through the proper form for each and every one of them, just because everyone is different with their bodies, and so what might work for me in terms of how I position myself and how I do a squat or whatever it is may not be the same for you. So I encourage you to check out other channels in terms of how to do proper form and technique. Now the only thing that I would talk about here are the glute bridges. And essentially what I found, especially myself when I started doing glute bridges, was that I would kind of just thrust my hips up in the air. So I'm kind of like humping the air. But I found that that's actually not really activating my glutes so much. And so I watched a lot of videos in terms of how to do proper form, and they basically tell you the same thing. Now, the analogy I found helpful for me was thinking of myself like two pieces of Velcro. So me being the top Velcro and the ground or the floor, whatever it is that I'm lying on, is the other part of the Velcro. So from there, you want to just lift your hips a little bit off the carpet, but keep your spine on the ground. And basically think of each and every vertebrae of your spine as a piece of Velcro that you're basically peeling off. So if you do that, you'll start to feel, or at least I started to feel, my hamstrings and my glutes, and I don't actually need to lift myself all that high. So a lot of the times you'll see people doing glute bridges and basically they're up so high that their neck is almost bent, maybe like 45 degrees. And essentially when I do glute bridges, my neck doesn't even really bend that much. So a lot of the times just like my upper body, like where my shoulders touch the floor, is still touching the floor, and just the rest of my back is elevated. And again, you lower yourself in a slow and controlled fashion and rinse and repeat. Now, the only other thing with these leg exercises is that you can actually do a lot more than what I have provided in the workout sheet in terms of reps. Just because they're larger muscles, they're capable of being worked out a little bit more. So I would say you could start off with like 12 to 15, and you can even go as high as 20 before you start to play around with time under tension or working towards a different or a harder progression. Now lastly, we have core. So as you can see, I don't really have a lot of core exercises here for you. They're a mixture of isometric holds and dynamic movements. And essentially the reason for this is because a lot of these exercises, like the push, the pull, and the legs, they utilize your core already, and so they're getting a slight workout. And the function of your core, or the goal of your core, is to stabilize your body essentially. So when you're doing a push-up, your core is already activated, it's doing its job, it's stabilizing. And so you just kind of want to finish off your core with these core exercises. Now the first one we have is knee raises. If you don't want to do knee raises, or if it's too difficult for you, you can start off with hollow body holds. However, I would encourage anybody who's looking towards calisthenics exercises to start with these and then eventually move on to leg raises as the next progression. And then from there, you could essentially do hanging leg raises or hanging knee raises to start off with, and then move on to the leg raises. And then eventually you can do toes to bar. And this is essentially a great way for you to work on your L-sit, as you'll see some calisthenics and gymnast athletes perform. All right, now with the bear crawl, I find this really, really fun. So it's just different from all the other exercises. It doesn't feel as serious, but it definitely gives me a workout. And the reason why I recommend a bear crawl is because it kind of helps teach me engaging my core in a hollow body form in a dynamic movement. And so a lot of the exercises for core is hinge movements. And this is just basically bending at the hips in order to compress the core. So even with plank, you're basically just holding yourself up and keeping yourself straight. But with bear crawl, because you're moving around you're actually activating the core still, you're keeping yourself rigid, you're keeping yourself stable, and it's just a fun way to do core exercises. All right, and the last one is plank, as I mentioned before. Now with the planks, you can hold it for as long as you can and rinse and repeat for 4 sets. Again, with plank, just try to keep your body straight like you would with push-ups. So in this demonstration, you can see I held it for about 30 seconds. I don't know if my form is perfect, but I tried to keep everything tense and try to keep everything straight. All right, guys, that's it for me in this video. I hope you found it helpful. Now, these exercises I'm still doing to this day. I'm just doing more difficult progressions. A lot of these exercises have given me a good foundation for the strength I have today. And essentially, I just wanted to share it with all of you, and hopefully you enjoy it as well. Thank you for watching, and remember, enjoy the journey and be well. Bye for now.